and thank you for attending the 2025 Reindustrialize Summit. It's critically important that we revitalize America's industrial base. When President Trump appointed me as Secretary of Defense, he gave us a clear mission: achieve peace through strength. It's our focus every single day. Deterring the threats that we face around the globe depends on whether we're ready, and a key part of being ready means rebuilding our military. The location of your meeting in Detroit is a perfect fit. I'm reminded of the role that the region played during World War II. Every morning, close to 42,000 American workers marched into a 3.5 million square foot building not far from where you're gathered. They were going to work on a mile-long assembly line, and they were producing B-24s at the rate of 1 per hour. We have an old poster from those days in the Pentagon archives. One side of the image shows munitions workers assembling a howitzer with the words, "You make it right." The other side of the poster shows the result: soldiers in the field manning the finished weapon that was manufactured in the factory. The words say, "They'll make it fight." That's the same spirit that animates President Trump's agenda to rebuild our defenses today, and the same urgency. I'm hopeful that you can harness ideas about revitalizing our industrial base and put them to work from coast to coast. You will help us forge a future where we can build and sustain an industrial base that can deliver the critical weapons we need fast and at scale. As far as our department is concerned, almost nothing is more important. Time is short. Thank you for tackling this big issue and tackling it now.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the Counselor of the United States State Department, the Honorable Mike Needham.
I've noticed in my time here a correlation that the more formal you're dressed, the less you contribute to the productive capacity of our nation. So they told me to wear a suit. Earlier today, I saw a management consultant who was in tails. It's a privilege to speak at Reindustrialize. There is not a day that goes by that the deindustrialization of the United States does not impact the work that we do at the Department of State. The range of options that we have on the global chessboard and our ability to advance the interests of the United States are directly tied to our nation's industrial might. No great nation can maintain its power without a real capacity for production. For that reason, I'm honored to be here today and grateful for the ideas that are being generated and the relationships that are being formed at this conference. Skipped a page. Americans are different from the rest of the world. Everyone knows it, but not everyone knows why. Some say it's our Constitution, or our political traditions, or our vast landmass. But that's not the whole story. Above all else, what sets America apart from the rest of the world is our people. A people possessed of the same proud, defiant spirit as a 13-year-old Andrew Jackson, who, after being captured after the skirmish at Hanging Rock, refused to shine the shoes of his British captors, preferring to accept a scar across his face from a British officer's saber rather than kneeling before the foreign occupiers. America is a nation of pioneers, of explorers, of inventors. Unlike our European counterparts, we were not born gradually over the course of millennia. We are a people that willed ourselves into existence, coming to know ourselves through a centuries-long struggle to forge a civilization out of the wilderness. We are a settler nation, dynamic, restless, reaching into infinite space. Since the first pilgrim ships arrived on our shores, we Americans have been possessed by an insatiable urge to create, to build, and to discover, to step forward into the dark unknown. Our people have flown across oceans, tunneled through mountains, defeated empires, raised up skyscrapers, and transcended our frontiersman ancestors by expanding outwards into outer space itself. We did this all while maintaining the capacity to rule ourselves. But over the last 30 years, that American spirit has been hijacked and misdirected. The spirit didn't die. You found a form of it alive and well in the adrenaline-soaked, high-stakes world of finance, the barbarians at the GAFE, the Wolf of Wall Street, the hedge fund magnate literally seizing a foreign Navy ship to satisfy an unpaid sovereign debt obligation. But in finance, this instinct, the will to risk, to compete, to conquer, in too many cases turned inward. In these excesses, it ceased to serve the nation and instead began to feed off of it. American capital markets are the envy of the world. They remain no doubt one of our country's greatest strategic advantages on the global chessboard. But the concentration of our talent and energy in finance has left other parts of our nations to atrophy. From the 1960s to 2008, the percentage of Harvard Business School grads who went into finance jumped from 6% to 28%, compared to only 5% in manufacturing. In a world where Russia has raw materials and China dominates manufacturing, an economy centered around McKinsey and DoorDash will not cut it. Great powers do not sustain themselves on software EBITDA margins alone. Rather, they need the mass productive capacity required to project power, secure commerce, and deter aggression. The Washington Consensus of the last 30 years squandered this source of American might. The elites of the so-called end of history believed that sending our money abroad to subsidize global labor markets and manufacturing would spawn dozens of little Americas. They would be countries with free markets, free people, and a fondness for old Uncle Sam, even if he'd grown a little bit fat and lazy. The people in power assured us that by outsourcing our productive base, we would export not just jobs, but values. Republican self-government, Madisonian democracy, entrepreneurial free markets. In this way, the whole world would become America, even as America itself became the whole world. We now see how foolish that dream was. Globalized trade and finance will bring us no soothing end to conflict and rivalry between nations. In the 21st century, America and our civilizational allies will face a choice. We can do the work to rebuild our nation, or we can watch as our technology and our national defense are held hostage to regimes which share neither our way of life nor our aspirations as a country and a civilization. This is the genius of President Trump's America First foreign policy. Through diplomacy, we are putting our immense leverage as a superpower to work for these interests, not for sectional lobbies or the abstract global community. We are restoring protective tariffs, as our nation has long had, in order to remedy the structural trade imbalances that have hollowed out our country. We are securing from other countries the rights to the raw materials we need, rather than giving them lessons about democracy. This philosophy takes as its first principle that America is not an idea to be exported, but a real nation and people, united by our past and our future, a unique history, and a shared destiny. It is a simple and seemingly obvious point that a nation's power and resources should be used in service of its own interests. But it represents a radical, even a revolutionary, shift from the posture of our foreign policy of the past. A peaceful and prosperous future will not come from factories in China, but from those here in our own hemisphere. America, our friends and our allies, must refocus on our production and our own people. This is no retreat from the world. It is the only way to preserve America's rightful place in it. Without an aligned industrial base, the peace, prosperity, and security that America has enjoyed for generations will fade just like it has for predecessors before us. Our ethos is simple. When America needs it, you build it, either here or jointly with our allies and our reliable neighbors. And if you can't find what you need in the ground here, you go out and get it. You bring it back home, and you reap the rewards. Whether it's in Latin America, our own backyard, which generations of Americans have dreamed of developing, or the Pacific Islands, or sub-Saharan Africa, there are many forgotten but strategic locations where American initiative and American ingenuity will go a long way to securing our hold on the resources we need to reindustrialize. The full promise of reindustrialization is a recovery of both the material and the spiritual ingredients for greatness. By building and asserting ourselves once more, by insisting upon ourselves, without apology or shame, we remember who we are, a nation and a people forged in the crucible of a wild frontier. To make a next American century, we must rekindle that flame, the swashbuckling American spirit that does what must be done and does not take no for an answer, that neither asks for permission nor begs for forgiveness. The new masters of the universe will not be Tom Wolfe's bond traders. They will be pioneers for whom risk isn't a figure on a spreadsheet or a metric to be managed, but a challenge. Men who laugh at impossibility. They will be Americans in the fullest and most deserving sense of the word, worthy of the men who built our country, possessed by the same spirit as the one that drove Thomas Edison, Samuel Colt, and the Wright brothers a century ago. Today, there are two places where that bold, unapologetic American spirit burns brightest: the Trump administration and the sectors of our economy where many of you create, invest, and envision new frontiers at the intersection of technology and the physical world. This room holds the raw materials for national renewal. The people here are founders, funders, and visionaries, heirs to the Americans who broke sound barriers, split atoms, and connected the world. Within you, America lives. The time for timidity has long since passed. Small groups of audacious men built our nation. Now it falls to us to reindustrialize it, and in doing so, to carve out a new American century. The panels ahead offer us a chance to read the global chessboard and plan our next move in the global contest for industrial power. First is allies in the age of reindustrialization. In this strategic moment, our allies must recognize that to be a true ally of a United States that finally recognizes our industry as a vital national interest, they can no longer free ride on lavish trade deals, but must contribute and become net sources of demand for American production in a mutually beneficial way. This change will not isolate us from our allies. On the contrary, a relationship that is fair to both sides will bring us closer together. The next panel will examine the so-called liberal world order, a strategy that had one of its key premises the belief that integrating global markets, even at the cost of domestic industry, would lead to our prosperity and somehow our dominance. Now we are living with the consequences. And finally, we turn to China, the rival that too often no one wants to name, even as they surpass us in industry after industry. Shipbuilding, steel, electric vehicles, critical minerals. Every port, mine, and chip fab that they finance is another move on the board. They play to win. We've hardly been playing at all. It is time to start acting like the great country that we are. Let's drill down to the defining issues and opportunities in front of us. No consultant speak, no think tank platitudes, but with the clear, resolute, and unapologetically American will to get things done and conquer these challenges. Thank you all.